his, no, not squirrel, the squirrel doesn't have a bush, how a squirrel got a bushy tail or stuff to explain things. But oral tradition means that you have to be really attentive and listen carefully, because when you repeat the story, you want to make sure that it's the right story. Otherwise, you can get really turned around and things will be really off. But those were the kind of stories that they told in the old days. Special stories that have to do with the spiritual stuff, they would only tell in the wintertime when the snow is on the ground, and then the child would have to come, or the parent would come to the elder who they want to tell a story, and they would bring them a gift, and they bring them tobacco, because in Indian way, tobacco isn't something that you just smoke like in a cigarette. It's sacred. It's an offering to the Creator and thankfulness for what blessings He gives you. So then you would give that elder that tobacco and the gift, and you would ask him or her to tell you the stories. And they would sit there night after night, almost every night, and they would sit by the fireplace and they would tell the kids the stories, and they would ask them to repeat it. So that's why you have to listen really, really carefully to the stories. That way, when you get older and you tell your children and you tell your grandchildren, you'll have the story right. So that's what that's about. That's called oral tradition. And so when you said you made a picture book, it just reminded me, because besides the oral tradition, people also made pictures. They made pictures on buffalo hides over in the West to keep track of they call a winter count. And that's the most important thing that happened that year. So it's like a yearly calendar. And they would draw pictures of that on that calendar, on that hide, and so that everybody would know the story that went with it. So some people did that. Other people, like in this area where there's not so much for that kind of material, they would use birch bark up north, and they would get the bark off the tree, and then they would scratch into that birch bark. They would scratch their story, what they wanted to tell. So those are all about how stories got passed on. Sometimes, especially in caves and someplace, that happens in Europe too. They find pictures that are drawn in caves, and you think, how could they get in there? But they must have carried something in there that had it like a torch, and they had light, and they would go in there and they would draw pictures on the walls. And that's called rock art, or they call it pictographs. Or sometimes if it's in rock, they call them petroglyphs. So those things, and you've got a lot of those around here in Wisconsin. So there's places you can go to see that stuff. So anyways, so I guess we better get started with the story. And then after we get finished with the story, then you can ask any questions you want. Except, don't ask how old I am. Now you can ask that too, because I'm really proud of it. Okay, it says, hey, wait up! Hi, Jody. Where did you get your moccasins?
We talked about moccasins, right? They were in our Jingle Dancer story.
My cuckoo made my moccasins for me. Who is your cuckoo? My cuckoo is my grandmother. She made my moccasins for me. What did she use to make her moccasins? My cuckoo used leather to make my moccasins for me. Where did she get the leather? Somebody's so nosy. My cuckoo made the leather, and from the leather she made my moccasins for me. How did she make the leather? By washing and scraping and pulling and smoking a deer hide. And my cuckoo made the leather. And from the leather, she made my moccasins for me. What is deer hide? Most of us know that in Wisconsin. It's the coat of the deer who lives in the forest. By washing and scraping and pulling and smoking a deer hide, my cuckoo made leather. And from the leather she made my moccasins for me. How did she get the deer? My dad went hunting and got the deer. He gave my cuckoo the coat of the deer who lives in the forest. By washing and scraping and pulling and smoking the deer hide, my cocoon made leather. And from the leather, she made my moccasins for me. That's nice beadwork on your moccasins. Yeah, see right there, it's pretty nice. Yes, my cocoon did it. Where did she get the beads? From the store. So, what do you think? Do you think that really can happen today? It does all the time. It does. Right now at my house, a friend of mine gave me a hide, and it's sitting there waiting for me to get it scraped and get all the hair off and get all the stretching and the pushing and the pulling done. So, I don't know. If I get it done, I will probably eat it raw. No, I want to make a pair of moccasins for my sister. So that's what I want to do.
Why do the people in the book keep asking the questions?
How come they keep asking questions? Because they want to know. If you want to know something, you should just go ahead and ask. It just depends, but a lot of people, when you ask them questions, they like that because it shows that you're interested. And a lot of people like to talk about, like him, he liked to talk about how his moccasins got made. So it's really nice to be able to do that. And if you don't ask, you're never going to know. So it's better just if you can just to ask. So like for me, that's what I tell, I talk to people. I say, go ahead and ask the questions because if you don't ask, you're not going to know, and you might have the wrong idea. So, and all of us, we don't all look at the things the same way. It's like not all of us Indians are alike. You have some Indians who don't live near their people, so they've been brought up like in towns or cities, and so they're pretty much, their upbringing is pretty much like everybody else. So they don't really know a lot about Indians and what they do. And then there's some that live always with all these other Indians all the time, and they don't really go around non-Indian people too much except for school. And then you have some who go balanced to go both ways, who spend a lot of time with their people, but they also spend a lot of time with other people. And then there's a lot of intermarriage now too. My grandson is, my grandson's 14, and he is so neat and he is so cute. But his mother is Caucasian, so he's really light-skinned, so he looks, he probably would look like you guys look a little bit, because he's really light. But he's got medium dark hair. I think his hair is about the color of this young man, but
Noah?
yeah, the one, yeah.
Right here?
Yep. The one that doesn't like homework.
I think
But,
that
yeah.
we have talked about that before, that if someone is Native American, you might not always be able to tell. They might look just like, they could even look a lot like Allison with very light hair.
Yeah.
Elizabeth's daughters, Elizabeth, who came and read the other day, Elizabeth's daughters do not look like they're Native American. Does that mean that they are not?
No.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yes, so you never know. You can't always tell by the way a person looks. They're not Native American, right?
I was thinking this morning, oh my gosh, I was up all night thinking about what I was going to talk to you guys about. Oh yeah. Anyways, but I have I was thinking, I wish I had time to show this. I made a PowerPoint of a slideshow of what it's like at our study center, our after-school program. Because when we go to recruit for tutors, because we always try to get college kids to come in and help work with the kids after school. So I made a slideshow about our study center. So it's got it shows all of the teachers, all of the other workers, the youth workers, shows a lot of the kids, it shows our volunteers, and all of those things. And it shows what our center is like. But anyways, maybe some other time. But anyways, so any other kind of questions you guys have? Anything you want to know? Yeah.
forgot?
You
Okay.
forgot? Okay. If you remember, raise your hand again. Okay, yeah.
How old are you?
I am 62.
Wow.
62.
My grandpa's older. My grandma's.
I know it.
I was born in 1950.
My
So that's a half a century past already. I'm pretty, being brought up in the 50s was really cool. It really was. Black and white TV. Actually, I didn't get it, my family, we didn't get a TV until I was 11, 10 years old. And it was black and white. And we didn't get a color TV until about 1964 or 5. So, yeah, because before that, all of the TVs were all black and white. I mean, there were some that were colored, but they were really, 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 really expensive. A lot of money. Probably like paying $5,000 for one now. It was a lot. Only rich people had color. And most of the people I know, I didn't know any rich people, so I couldn't go to their house and watch TV. Yeah. Oh, I like your socks, Colin Bones.
Marion, you said how old you are, so now maybe we want to ask Marion one of the questions on our list about being an elder. And what does it mean to be an elder? And I really wonder, how do you get to be an elder?
Well, people have different ways of looking at it. Some people say it's just a matter of age. And so like in our society, like just the normal mainstream American society, people, you don't have that term elder, you just say old or senior, and that, that doesn't mean the same thing. To us, to most of us, an elder is a person who has a lot of knowledge, who lives their life a certain way, which means like to live in a more spiritual way, in a helping way, to be good to people and to try to do the best they can to help others. But especially with elder, that term comes to mean knowledge. They know the traditions, they know the stories, they know the ways of the people, they know the spiritual ways. All of those things go into being an elder. So if a person is 65 years old and doesn't know those things, they might be elderly, but they're not an elder. Because an elder, for most of us, it really has a special meaning, and it is that part of knowledge and teaching and sharing and being a good example to other people about how to live. So that's one of that. Some people, they just give it an age, and some people say at 55 you become an elder, and then other people say 60, and other people say 65. But when somebody is 70, they should be an elder. That's pretty old. And our people are getting, I don't know whether they're living longer or not. My mother-in-law, she passed away when she was 93. That was going on 4 years ago. But my husband died when he was 54. So, it's hard telling. Some people, it's just hard telling. But some people who are young can also be an elder or be considered an elder because they do have the knowledge of their language, knowledge of their ways, their traditions, who follow those ways and who are teaching people. So some people can have a lot of knowledge at a younger age and still, be considered elder.
Allison had a question sheet, so I'm going to let her ask one. I forgot the pieces of paper because I took them home so I could type them all up, and then I forgot them. So we're going to pass around the sheet of paper because Marion was good enough to print them last night or this morning. So Allison, we're going to ask one of our questions. Remember, these are the questions that we came up with all together a few weeks ago that we would ask our native guests. What is your job?
Okay, right now my job is I'm a teacher at the study center, and I go into schools and tutor, and then we tutor at the after school. And then the other thing is, in the summer, in August, we have whole month of, they call summer enrichment. And so the teachers have to design a month-long session for the kids. So we try to get science and math and everything into it, which is kind of tough. But, and then we design those, so we get to decide what we want to teach and how we teach it. So, and before that, I worked in the health office, and I worked in the health office. I was a community health representative, so I did a lot of health education, and so I had to learn a lot about a lot of different health issues, whether it was diabetes, heart problems, and then different stuff. And then I would go and visit, especially elders who needed help to go to the doctor, and I would drive them to the doctor, go to the doctor appointments with them. I would help them to make sure that they kept their medicine straight and doing all of that stuff. And then I got to also do community education, which I used to go to area meetings and different meetings from the groups, and would go in and talk to them about health issues. Before that, I did a lot. And before that, I worked in the tribal enrollment office, and I was administrative assistant, so I got to help with a lot of different stuff in the tribal enrollment office. Then before that, I was in the labor office. It sounds like a lot, but you guys, I'm talking about maybe like since the last 10 years at least. And in the meantime too, I was finishing up my school. Because when I graduated from high school in 1969, I went to college right away, but it was really hard because I was away from home and I hadn't gotten, I just wasn't used to being by myself, because I have 5 sisters and 3 brothers and my mom and dad, and I wasn't used to being away from home, and I was really lonely and homesick. So anyway, I ended up getting married, and then that was it for school. So, but then I went back to school after my husband passed away, and so then I finally got finished in 2 years ago. So now I have my bachelor's in history, and I like it a lot. And I finally learned how to do some math. Yeah. And now.
Maliki has the next question.
Okay.
Friends, while Maliki is getting ready for his question, check your body basics quick, please.
What?
Check your body basics.
These were people used for home and shelter many years ago.
Okay, many years ago, my people migrated from Minnesota area and went west to Red Plains. So my people used teepees, and those were made with buffalo hide, tanned buffalo hide, and poles. They call them lodge poles, because out west they've got these tall pine trees that are really tall and slim. So we lived in teepees, and that's what we used a long time ago. Nowadays everybody lives in houses, but they still make teepees, but now they make them out of a heavy canvas.
Sarah's going to ask the next question. Oh, and I missed the first part. What tribe are you from?
Northern Arapaho, and we are, our reservation is in Wyoming with the Shoshone people.
Okay.
They were our enemies back when we were free, but after the government rounded up our people, we were supposed to get a reservation up in the northern part of the state, in the Powder River country, but the government didn't want us up there, so they ended up dropping us off with the Shoshone people down in kind of west central Wyoming, which is still really pretty down there. And we used to go down there too, but it wasn't really right in our homeland. So they left us there, and they never moved us back out, so they ended up having to pay the Shoshones for half of the reservation, because we have half and they have half. So, but that's what we do.
So some of the things that Marion was just talking about with getting moved by the government and not being able to have the land that they once had. That kind of goes along with what we talked about when Elizabeth was here, about Christian missionaries and white settlers who came in and said, no, you need to be more like us. And they forced the Native Americans to move, and they tried to change everything that they did so that they were more like white people. And so that is how we talked about they lost a lot of their traditions and their culture because they were forced to move, and they wanted, the white settlers wanted them to be just like they were. And how sad that is. Oh, wait, Sarah, what's your question? Does your tribe have special jewelry?
Well, back in the old days, they used to make jewelry out of like some bones, like buffalo bones and stuff. But one of the great things, and I didn't bring any with me, but these are just regular beads, but these would be beads like you would, or material like you would find in the Southwest, because it's coral and turquoise. So these things, you know, they come from the Southwest, which is like Arizona, New Mexico, in that area, some parts of Texas, a little bit. But the one thing that we used was a lot was shells, and that would be kind of odd being in the middle of the country. But we had, they used abalone shells. I should have brought some along. But there's something called cowrie shells, and those are little shells that are like about this big, and you might have seen them. They look like a teardrop, and they're usually kind of golden colored, and they have little lines that go around the edges. So they used to use a lot of those. One thing that that my people used, and a lot of the people in our western states, they used elk teeth, which was kind of, people, you know, those are like today, they would be so expensive. But they would take the two eye teeth of an elk, and that's what they would drill holes in them. Then they would use those for the women to decorate their dresses. And those things were really prized, because you know, how you think of, if you're going to have 20 or so teeth on your shirt, that means that how many elk do you have to get if you want 20 teeth? If there are only 2 teeth taken out of each elk.
Danny, what do you think?
10.
Good job. It's 10.
Yep, and you were getting it. Yeah, so so those things are really, really prized. So they did a lot of trading, a lot of bartering. So like in even here in Wisconsin, in some places they have found obsidian knives. And obsidian comes from lava, so you could get that from the west coast, where there was a lot of volcanoes there. But they can come also from like Wyoming and that, and then down they get traded from all the way down the Gulf Coast, around the Mississippi, the foot of the Mississippi River, all the way up. So there were a lot of trade routes going on back then. So you might want to, something that you would think, oh, they don't have those here, but they would get them through trade, and that's what would make them really, really, really special. Yeah.
Actually, my mom has obsidian necklace.
Really? Yeah, those are really pretty.
Because my great grandmother got her own.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Isn't that neat?
Yeah, and then my grandma, she used those for she went to Hawaii for work.
Marion has brought some special things to share with us. Some things that,
Where are they? They're over there. Yeah.
some things from her house to share with us. We have not been able to see very many artifacts that are
I have so many
American.
things I was thinking of bringing, and it just didn't. I was sleeping, so I didn't get up, and I thought, oh, I'll have this, I'll have that. But I just wanted to show you a few things. These are from my house, This has been sitting on my wall. You tell I don't dust because it's all dusty. But this is made, this is rawhide. So you can see it's it's thin, but it is rawhide.
Is it from a deer?
It's from a deer, and we scraped it, we did it, and we were tanning it. So and that's kind of nice too, because this is like this. Okay, this is how, if you were gonna tan a deer hide, once you had it taken care of, okay, I'll explain it. It's kind of a real long process. First of all, as the book said, you have to kill the deer. And then you gotta take the skin off, take the whole skin off. But then, once it's off, then you have to scrape all of the fat and all of the other membrane and stuff off of it to make it smooth. Then you have to soak it, and you have to soak it so that, because you know how thick deer hair is. So you have to soak it for a long time so that that hair will come out easier. Then you have to put it on, usually they use like a log, a big long log, but they split it in half. And then they put that down and they make a tripod with the leg on it so that that thing goes down like this. There's something called a scraper, and it's about, it's a piece of metal, and usually it's about this long, and it's kind of got a curve, and you've got handles on the end, and you take that and you just push. There's usually a nail at the top. You put a hole in the hide, stick it there so that it won't slide, and then you have to push that, you have to scrape all the hair off. That takes a long time, and afterward it kind of smells bad too. But anyway, then after you get it all cleaned off, then you have to wash it real good, and then you have to wring it out, and that's hard. And then you leave it soak in a big bucket of water that's usually got Tide soap in it, laundry soap, and then you get it all bubbly, so then, oh yeah, you do that before you scrape the skin off. That's what helps to get the skin off. But you have to clean it up, wash it, and then once you've done that, you have to poke holes all along the edge, and then you get on. Then you have like this. This would be called a rack. So then that's when you get that hide. You poke the holes in there, and you run the rope through it, and then you start stretching it. And if you ever seen axe handles, they've got like the two edges, but there's the axe handle, and you kind of shape it so it's not real sharp, and then that's what you use to take, and you have to take that thing and you just push real hard against this, and you push that out that way. You get it so it gets the, oh yeah, you soak it, but you have to put brains in it, in the water. So it's like, used to be the deer brains they used to use, but nowadays they use pig brains, and that's what makes that real soft. So it smells bad too when you're doing it until it gets done, and then when it gets done, it's really, really nice, and then it's really nice and soft. And if you've ever seen what it looks like, and then you can smoke it, and by smoking it, that kind of helps to make it waterproof. Anyway, so this is just the first process. This is my seat, and you can see the end where I'll pass it around in a second. But anyway, so my son decided he wanted to do something, so he didn't have anything else to do. So he took this piece, cut it, and then he made a picture on it, and he painted it. And these are just tempera paints. So then that's what he did. And he went out to the woods, and he just cut some little branches off a tree. So then he made this. So it shows this is the buffalo skull, because the buffalo is sacred to my people, to a lot of other Indian tribes, and it's a very important part of our culture because it provided us with food, it provided us with our clothing, it provided us with our homes. So there wasn't a part of it that wasn't used. The horns, they would make spoons out of them. The feet, the hoofs would be made into decorations and different stuff. They could make them into hoes too, like if they were gonna go gardening. So then these on the side, the white buffalo. The white buffalo is really sacred to my people. It's a promise and a sign from the Creator that he has taken pity on us, that he wants to bless us, take care of us, and have a good life. So that's what this signifies. And my older son made this. I have two sons, and I had a daughter, but she passed away. But anyway, so you guys can take a peek at that.
Be very, very gentle with this, okay? This is something that is very special to me.
And they were talking about, and this is dusty too, because I have it in my room. This is, my son made, the little same one who did that, he made this, and usually you could just do the dream catcher with just one hoop, but he decided to do two and try it out. And these are brass beads. These are, anyway, so he decided, this is the first one he did like this. So I thought it came out pretty darn nice, and I like it a lot. And this, I think he probably about a good 15, maybe even longer, about 15 years. So, and that's about the same time for that too. So, yeah, take a peek at that.
Next week or after break, we are going to be making dream catchers. They will just be a single circle. They will not have the double. So we are going to continue. And they're going to go with another story.
Very gentle with these things moving around, boys and
I
girls, because
get
they are
I
just,
can't see it, so. I'm getting kind of old, my eyes are not as, now be careful there. Let it by.
very careful.
Okay, that's what I thought these were, because I had one like that too. These are little, little seeds. I'm not sure what kind of seeds they are, but yeah, those are really pretty. Turquoise and my favorite color too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I had some like that one time. So see, oh, anyone? Oh, could you grab my gray bag? Because I did bring some beads just to let them see what beads are like. But they're in the, oh my goodness, this is kind of making me oh yeah, here. This one, this is cowhide, but this is, so just to show you, you know, like how you make leather, you know, like the leather like you would use for shoes or whatever. But this is from a cow. I don't know where I got this either. But you can see that it was getting stretched. So I think this is cowhide. I should try it and see. Maybe it's buffalo. I don't know. But anyway, this is a piece of rawhide. And okay, yeah. And then just for you guys, just so you can see. But these are. I just saw them and grabbed a bag, but. I'm glad they're in baggies, so they don't be spilled. But so if you're ever gonna have somebody do some beadwork for you, you can see why they cost a lot, because that's a hard to do.
I'm sending one this way, one this way. So that you guys have something while you're waiting for that. Yes, but if you get a chance.
So.
Because Charlotte is going to catch it.
So these beads, these are like size 10. So those are kind of like normal size, but a lot of them, they use a lot smaller beads. So the larger the number of the larger the number of the bead, the smaller the bead is. 11s are a lot smaller than this. And these are iridescent, so you guys can, okay, I'll just, here, you can, yeah, look at that. So those are size 10s. But after a while, because I want to make a pouch for my sister too, because she got her Indian name 2 years ago, and I did too. And so I want to make her a pouch that has about her name on it.
So you didn't get your Indian name until you were...
No, my parents came from different tribes. We lived with my mom's people. And so my dad never got our names. So none of my brothers and sisters have our names, except for now. My two sisters, my sister and I, and last year another sister got hers. And this year, hopefully we're going to get the other 3 names, hopefully, summer. And I got my name from my brother. I had talked to my uncle a long time ago and had talked to him about it because I was thinking about it. but I never really did anything with it. And I had talked with my other brother who talked to another brother, and these brothers of mine, well, first of all, the first brother, I didn't know he was my brother, I thought he was my uncle, because he's a lot closer to my dad's age. So finally one day he corrected me very, very nicely and quietly. But we had an older brother. And in our way of relationship, is a little different than here. My grandmother's sisters, all of her kids are my dad's brothers and sisters. So their children are all my brothers and sisters. So
So I know a little bit about how Ho-Chunk family.
yeah, there's ours goes even a little farther because, well, with theirs they have uncles and aunts on that, so those are, no.
No.
Your uncles are your mother's brothers. And your aunts are your father's sisters. But your father's brothers are your dad's, and your mother's sisters are your mom's. So it's kind of weird.
It's
Yeah.
confusing.
After about 2 generations back, then I really get confused.
Yeah.
Because then you have an 80-year-old man having a 6-month-old mom
Right.
or grandmother, so,
Oh.
yeah. Okay, are there any other questions?
Do you guys want to ask Marion any more questions?
Well, we're still
I know you're so
Yeah.
excited about being able to see and touch these things. It's amazing that you brought them for us.
in the boat.
Really cool.
I didn't get to feel everything.
Well, they're coming, They don't
Emerson,
fret.
do you have a
Everything will get
question?
there.
It's kind of weird, like, it's kind of hard and it kind of feels like
Yeah, it does feel like bone, but it's not quite, well, you can see, because you can still bend it, yeah.